This is Beyond the Bench with Nick Morgasen and Nick Fodera. A look at sports and pop culture from beyond common sense. The show that constantly goes off the rails and might never get back on. When you don't belong, you're a bench warmer. On this show, there's no riding the bench. This is Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. That's Nick Fodera. I'm Nick Morgasen. You're stuck with the two most annoying Nicks in the world of podcasting.
Oh, I very much doubt that, but we've got to be in, what, the top 10 at least?
Top 10, top 1, who's counting?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any other annoying Nicks that you can think of?
That depends on how annoying you think Nicolas Cage is.
I agree with you. When he's too busy going after people and being annoying, then yeah, I would say Nicolas Cage is up there.
But if you want more takes like that, you should follow us on our socials. You can see as it's going by on the ticker, you can follow him at N Morgasen Radio and me at Nick Writes Words. And you can follow the show itself at Beyond the Bench 1. Thank God we actually corrected it so it's not a giant spelling error again. So for this week, we've got a lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it.
Yeah, we have a lot to get to. We finally made it to the end of the week. Wink, wink, finally. And my voice sounds like I smoked 10 million marbles. I can't even say that right because I can't pronounce anything. But yeah. I don't smoke, by the way. But it just sounds like that.
You smoked 10 million marbles.
Marbles. Let's go with that one instead. Don't do it. We should put the skull and crossbones up like they did on Jackass. Don't do that, please. We don't want to be responsible for any of those lawsuits that come this way.
Yeah.
Send them to James Dolan. He'll take care of them.
Oh, God.
But speaking of weird situations of the peculiar variety, we're going to start with PETA. Now, I brought this to Nick's attention earlier. And so PETA wants Major League Baseball. And of course, I can't spell because of that headline. It should say PETA wants MLB to start calling Bullpen an arm barn over treatment of cows.
Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of ratioing.
Yeah.
So this is essentially what's going on when PETA put that tweet out. And they were basically, if you understand anything about PETA's presence, especially on social media over the past couple of years, I like to consider it's a form of verbal shit posting. They'll just say the most ridiculous, outlandish things, and everybody just drags them for it. Meanwhile, do I need to remind you that PETA is actually an organization that kills dogs?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues with this story. And, excuse me, I was telling Nick earlier that I have a very unique story I'm going to tell that has to do with organizations like PETA that happened to me when I was in college. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. But so the story says PETA is asking Major League Baseball to change the name of the bullpen, a term used since the 1800s to describe the area where pitchers warm up, to arm barn. The nonprofit organization argued in a news release the longtime baseball term isn't animal friendly.
Which I would believe if there were actual bulls in a bullpen. See, I don't think these assholes actually watch a baseball game. I don't understand. A bullpen is where you keep bulls, where bulls go when they're not needed. And do they kill bulls? No.
It's almost like a bad game of, sorry for the PETA listeners, a game of chicken where people go back and forth and they can't decide what they want.
No, they can't decide what they want. And to be honest with you, of course, I'm saying this from a complete lack of cowardice. Believe me, if I'm not a vegetarian and I don't have the willpower to be a vegetarian or a vegan, I don't want to know how the sausage is made either. And I guarantee you, if I did, I probably wouldn't want to eat meat anyway. So, but I'm just saying, What I am critiquing here, and what I need to be very careful to critique, is their social media presence being completely batshit over the hill crazy.
It is. It's crazy. And I have to read you something that they wrote. PETA wrote something stupid as usual. Quote, strike out the word bullpen. Where's my sound effect for that horrible pun? Strike out the word bullpen, which references the holding area where terrified bulls are kept before slaughter, in favor of a more modern, animal-friendly term. Close quote.
You know who really doesn't give a shit if you're defending their rights? Animals.
Yeah. Oh, tell them that joke you made to me earlier where you said like a chicken was pecking around and...
Do you really think a chicken is pecking around in a farm on any given day at sunup thinking about, hey, I wonder who's going to fight for my rights today? No, you know what they're thinking about? Feeding, shitting, and maybe having sex with something. They're chickens. They are driven by baser instincts.
I mean, do you really think a chicken is saying, what the f-? Like,
not that it matters what the chicken thinks, but that's what because it would be weird if PETA just all of a sudden started saying, we can hear the chickens and the cows are talking to us. Although that would kind of be weird in a weird kind of avant-garde kind of way. It would be fun.
Is it ironic though that they chose to wait until the World Series of all times?
That was absolutely on purpose.
And Rob Manfred has enough issues going on with Major League Baseball. Like, I don't know, a lockout coming December 1st at 11:59 p.m.
Oh, and that is its own can of worms. So, honest to God, people usually don't like it when you make Manfred look good, but stop giving him these layups. Stop giving him these things he can use to make himself look less crazy in comparison.
You know what? I would tell the PETA people. Hey, I think I hear Aaron Rodgers in the distance. He can help me figure out how this situation works.
RELAX.
I mean, I actually would agree with Aaron Rodgers on this one. Relax.
But then again, I mean, you've had tussles with animal rights activists before.
I have, where I have to tell you a funny story. When I was going to college, community college, my first 2 years at Nassau Community College, I was walking around on campus. Now, I don't know how many campuses around the country, whether it's a bigger campus or not, but they use tubes to get to transport like under campus. You don't have to walk all the way above and then down a bunch of stairs. And this used to happen. Like I found out that we actually had a animal rights club at Nassau Community College, which I had no idea that existed. And they would block the tubes because they wanted to give out their animal rights flyers. And I found
physically, you can't pass.
Yes, I'm not kidding you whatsoever. They blocked the tubes, and all I see everyone trying to get through, and they're blocking the tubes because we are animal rights. Rah 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 rah. And I'm like, is this a joke? Is this a fucking joke that they're blocking the tube? And mind you, it's like a bad movie. That's the only way to get to the class that I could go.
Now, mind you, there's no rule against doing that in any kind of campus. There's no rule for it, but there's also no rule against it. So it kind of exists in a weird kind of gray area. Now I know the area he's talking about because I've seen the National Community College campus a couple of times, and that was the tunnel there actually pretty narrow, so it doesn't really take that much to block it.
And you know what? Like, I was ready, man. I was ready to go. Like, because I know, and it makes me sound like a nerd, but I was never going to be late to my classes. Like, I was one of those people. But in general, I had to get to class anyway, because that's on my schedule. And when they make the tubes, the only way that you can get there, and you run into a stupid protest brigade where all they're talking about is don't eat meat, don't eat eggs, don't kill the animals.
I mean, I have nothing against animal rights activists. The way we do treat animals in this country is absolutely abhorrent. And factory farming just sucks. And the way they make foie gras is actually sadistic. So I understand in principle, but there is a way to do it without weirdo shit posting or muscling your way to make sure that people hear you so they can't get to class.
And you know what? Like, I understand people are mad because they don't want animals to be killed to make fur coats and all that stuff. I get it.
I understand if you're a vegetarian or a vegan for ethical reasons.
But don't
I get it. I
don't-
absolutely get it.
but don't force your values on people who don't want to believe the same thing you do. Now,
And most vegetarians and vegans don't. They're Pete is just crazy.
and you know what? Last time I checked, this was a free country, right?
I mean, yeah.
So you're allowed to have any opinion you want.
Yeah, although some people really should not be allowed to have opinions at all.
Well, that's true, but I'm saying like we're allowed freedom of speech.
Should we really, if you really take a step back and squint really hard, do you really think that we should have opinions?
Well, you and I can. We do a podcast, and we're on a podcast network, so yeah, we kind of have to.
But is it really an essential opinion?
Who cares? I've had enough.
Good point.
I have enough of PETA as it is, and now they're going to destroy a sport that I like to watch.
They ain't destroying jack shit.
No. I'm saying they have to make up dumb shit to be in the spotlight. Because Bullpen,
again, it's the equivalent. If I may use a baseball metaphor, it's you know what it is? It's going to Yankee Stadium, going out in the middle of the field, stripping naked, and then pointing at your dick. See, everyone, look at me. You're drawing attention. Again, you're only doing this to attract attention. Maybe that was a bit too extreme, but you understand the point.
well, I think Ric Flair enjoyed it. So, I don't know. This story is stupid in every way, shape, or form. And to be quite honest, if I could take down PETA by myself, I would. The problem is I'd be attacked by every animal protester there was.
And several animals, probably.
Just be careful. I'm surprised PETA doesn't go after shows like Family Guy, who are constantly making jokes about slaughterhouses and animals and constant... I mean, they have talking animals.
As opposed to them living like it's an episode of The Wild Thornberrys?
Well, you have that. You have a talking dog. And I'm surprised they're not going after Family Guy. Well, that's forced. You can't do this.
You know, it wouldn't surprise me.
But it's almost like I think of PETA as a group of squawking chickens, basically, is the way I refer to it.
Metaphor.
Where basically they just run around, they peck at people and say, if you don't follow me, you're a horrible person. But speaking of squawking chickens, or chicken, Caitlyn Jenner, everybody, the squawking chicken that's defending Dave Chappelle, says for his stand-up, the closer, the controversy is about woke cancel culture run amok. Nick?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am sick and tired of having to talk about Dave Chappelle and people, like I said last week, people complaining about cancel culture are actually infinitely more annoying than cancel culture, whatever damage you think cancel culture does. Because Caitlyn Jenner, I don't know if you know this, but Caitlyn Jenner actually killed the guy. Or she almost. I think she almost or allegedly. I think, but she's not exactly a sterling example of the warmth and humanity of the transgender community.
Well, you really don't see a ring and white feathers basically saying that being the angel of the world, for crying out loud.
No, not exactly. And believe me, there's nothing wrong with Caitlyn Jenner being trans, but the fact that Dave has a man who fancies himself and has acted as the ultimate truth teller. I'm being silenced. Look at who you have to associate with now. Look at who's coming to defend you.
But wait.
Ted Cruz is coming to defend you.
But wait a minute.
Ben Shapiro is coming to defend you.
Well, I could give two fucks about Ben Shapiro at this point. But what I was going to say is Dave Chappelle actually said that he was willing to meet up with the trans community under certain conditions. Did you see that?
Yeah, like this is a hostage negotiation.
And I'm like, wait a minute. And I've said this to many people that I've been talking to. It's a stand-up special. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
But the fact that he had to do it for an hour straight, the fact that he's railed against transgender people, you would think he actually has a problem.
Well,
I mean, at some point, it kind of goes beyond a joke.
True.
You can read between his words.
Right. But I hate to say this, and we talked about this last week with comedians being upset because they're being censored. Oh my God, I'm being censored!
Meanwhile, they get paid millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I'll let you know the secret again that I let you in on last week. Dave Chappelle makes $20 million.
Dave Chappelle has made a lot of money, and no one is forcing him to shut up. People wish he would shut up, but he's not.
So,
and to be honest with you, what the transgender protesters outside, some of them were Netflix employees, what they were advocating for was completely reasonable, because they weren't saying take the special off. They were saying no, keep it up.
But wait a minute. We're acting like we don't have choices to watch things. When our parents were our age, many, many years ago, you only had Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 9, and Channel 11. And you were happy to have 5 channels. Now you have hundreds of channels. You have streaming platforms. You have digital platforms. You have YouTube. You can watch whatever you want. People need to take a chill pill.
Which, again, but I would agree with you. But the culture has just become so toxic, and believe me, and the statistics you hear about trans people committing suicide at a higher rate than a lot of other groups of people is very, very, very real. I mean,
no, I understand, and you know what? It's awful and it's terrible, and we need to do better as a community to accept everybody for who they are. But I think that we need to also take it down a notch and stop being so offended. Oh my God, I'm so offended by everything.
Dave Chappelle did this on purpose. He absolutely did this on purpose to draw attention to himself, because if there's anything that he deliberately said something inflammatory so people would come after him, and then he could play the victim. It's about the cynical it's not necessarily about cancel culture. It's about the cynical exploitation of the effects of such. Is the problem here. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, but to be quite honest, like, I understand why the Netflix employees are upset, and should there be a warning label? That's kind of up for discussion, in my opinion.
I mean, if you were transgender, what would you think?
That's a loaded question, because it's really, I don't like to talk for other genders and other I don't know, what do you call it? Other
gender identities.
Yes, sorry, gender identities and sexual orientation. I don't like talking for other people because that's not fair to other people. But what I would say is, I think people should be allowed to do what they want, and you could slap a warning label on it, I guess, if you wanted to do it that way. Just, it would have been easier if he just said, warning, there might be some jokes or material on this.
That's essentially what they wanted. That's essentially what they were asking for.
And the Netflix CEO actually came out and said they made a mistake, if I'm not mistaken.
They made a mistake by not by sticking by him, by wording their initial statement. It's Ted Sarandos you're talking about. He's the CEO of Netflix.
Yes. Like he said that they should have actually.
What he was saying is that he thinks that his initial statement of absolutely unequivocal support for Chappelle was kind of worded wrong. That it was a little bit insensitive, a lot insensitive, actually.
I mean, he's a CEO, for crying out loud. We've seen CEOs put their foots in their mouths before.
How is that different from any other day? But again, I'm just again, I'm sick and tired of talking about cancel culture. I'm
But wait a
sick
minute.
and tired of talking about it.
Can we just file this under, I don't know, what do you want to say? Scandal? Because that's where I feel like the world is right now, that we're all we care about are scandals.
Well, if the world is burning, you definitely need to have something to keep yourself occupied, right?
I mean, now all we care about are the scandal stories. I mean, what happened to the days where we cared about legitimate news and not about what Caitlyn Jenner is saying? Or
Well, that was before social media existed, and we'll get to that because it ended up being in the news again.
we'll get there. But speaking of scandal, well, or post scandal, Lori Loughlin. Now, I saw this story and I said, I have to talk about this. Lori Loughlin was part of one of my favorite shows growing up, Full House, and then Fuller
You
House
were a
until
Full
she
House
put her
fan,
foot in her
too.
mouth.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of Full House because my brother got into it when he was in college, and he came home and started watching it, and I actually sat down to watch it. I'm like, what the hell? Because I'm too young for it, to be honest. It's before my time. But however, I am a fan of Bob Saget's stand up.
Me too. I love the stand up of Bob Saget. I mean, what's ironic about that, most people don't know, Bob Saget is the dirtiest comedian there ever is.
Probably one of the dirtiest comedians you'll ever see.
So people always saying he makes this joke in his stand up all the time. How did I become America's dad being the most dirtiest comedian there is?
I don't know, but in terms of Lori Loughlin, what he's referring to is she went to jail for a couple of months.
2 months.
She went to jail for 2 months because she lied. She fraudulently got her kid a scholar. Her kid, who did not, who was an influencer.
Olivia Jade. Yep.
Yes, I was blanking on her name for a second. She got into USC without actually getting into it. It was a phony admission scandal.
You're leaving out one small thing, that she went to the testing room that they had, and they paid the proctor who they essentially knew, who was giving the answer. It's a whole thing. Go back. There's actually a great documentary they did on this on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but they did a whole thing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But like, there were major CEOs alongside Lori Loughlin and I forgot the father's name, Massimo
Giannulli, I think.
right? Them and a bunch of CEOs paid basically to get their kids in the back door, which is in the movie, without basically being admitted.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you have the justice system for rich white people, and because I guarantee you, if they were not famous, not rich, and not white, they would have the book thrown at them. Not to say that college admissions aren't a complete joke and a scam as it is.
Oh, they are. They totally are.
They absolutely are. And the American collegiate system is absolutely one giant scam. It's a giant money vacuum. Putting that aside, it's illustrative of whose justice are we actually serving here.
Well, it gets worse, because then this story comes out. Now, I'm trying to decide if this is a PR move or if this is a try to save my career, because I finally got my first acting job since I was in jail for being a moron.
Which is in one of those Lifetime Christmas movies, right?
Oh, she's been in her and Kansas Cameron
Bure. Yeah.
They both do Hallmark movies.
Mm.
And now she's not doing anything for Hallmark right now. She's doing another show for like a unknown TV network. I think it's in the story here. I'll get to that in a second. But so she apparently privately arranged, this is in quotes, privately arranged to put 2 students through 4 years of college, according to a U.S. Weekly report, paying tuition and expenses totaling over $500,000.
Now, these students are not people she knows.
Strangers, complete strangers.
Now, that's a good thing.
But is this a PR move?
Oh, it's absolutely a PR move. It's the rich white people version of community service.
Well, she had to do jail time and 100 hours of community service already.
I'm thinking that, we are so cynical as a society that I mean, simple acts of charity feel forced and artificial. But on its face, this is a good thing. But again,
I
she and as much as I just spent ragging on her, I mean, let's admit to ourselves. I mean, she served her sentence.
she served her sentence, but at the same time,
But at the
no,
same time, it's patently unfair that she only she gamed she gamed an unfair system and only got a slap on the wrist for it.
so according to the U.S. Weekly source, Loughlin hopes she's now, quote, allowed to move on as she resumes working in her first post-scandal project, which is a role in GAC Family's When Hope Calls.
Oh my God! I give her 6 months before she's a talking head on Fox News, whining about cancel culture again, because that seems to be the life cycle with people like this. Oh God!
Get out of here.
I mean, that's what I would say. Get the fuck out of here. I'm done. You know what? Like, why do these actors and actresses get second chances in life when they do dumb shit?
Because to be famous and rich is to buy a lot of power.
And by the way, Olivia Jade, even though she comes the daughter of Lori Loughlin, who tried to fake it that she was in college, and now she makes so much money as an influencer. It was such a lie the whole time. So I don't know who they were trying to fool.
We'll get into younger people making a lot of money, but for now, let's see if we could.
By the way, did you know Olivia Jade was actually competing on Dancing with the Stars?
Yes.
I'm so I had this argument with
Sean Spicer was on Dancing with the Stars.
No, I'm talking about this year though. But I'm tired of like influencers taking over like TV shows now.
Then you are in the wrong business here.
No, it's fine, and I understand it, but like they're only making shows now because of what people like on social media, not what the outside world actually likes.
I mean, social media has kind of turned into the outside world, hasn't it?
Well, it's turned into the outside world.
It's an artificial, amped up on crack version of the outside world, but still.
You know what's ironic? Social media is like its own bubble. The Silicon Valley bubble, which we should pop because of somebody who runs a certain social media page, but we'll get to that later. I think this is a PR hack move, to be quite honest, and I will not forgive Lori Loughlin. And the reason I won't forgive Lori Loughlin is because I grew up on Full House and Fuller House, and I thought she was actually a character that was not valued enough in that show and could have been used a lot more. But now that I found out she's got a devious mind and basically put together a whole college admissions scandal, I hate it. It's like the whole Bill Cosby situation all over again. Not what she did. But but remember when people said, "Oh, Bill Cosby."
I get it.
Like, "Oh, Bill Cosby's America's dad. America's dad."
How could this happen?
How could this happen? How did we find out that he was raping people? Well, now we find out that, well, I wouldn't call Lori Loughlin America's mom, but she definitely was. She was one of the nicer characters on the show.
Yeah, people knew her.
But, all right, we'll move on. And speaking of devious, let's move on to Squid Games. So, I love this. So, the creator of Squid Games, and I don't know, do you know how to pronounce the director's name?
Hwang Dong-hyuk.
Wow, that was pretty good.
I apologize to any Koreans or Korean speakers for butchering that like I probably did. I did. Like I said, dumb white guy here.
So,
but
she took shots at LeBron James saying, "Have you seen Space Jam 2?" After LeBron James, I think in a post-game press conference,
said he didn't like the ending.
He didn't like the ending of Squid Games, which, by the way, we talked about this, I think, in episode 1, where...
No, it was the second episode.
Or was it episode 2?
Second episode, yeah.
Where in the first 25 days, 111 million people watched it. So, hey, LeBron, I think no one cares about your opinion at this point.
No, I haven't seen Squid Games, but I have seen Space Jam 2, and I really wish I could get that time back.
You know what?
Especially considering that it features the Looney Tunes, and I love the Looney Tunes.
Let's put it this way: if maybe I could take a squid tentacles, grow a bunch of them so they cover my eyes and ears and mouth, so I never have to see Space Jam 2 ever again.
Oh God.
Hey, LeBron, what do you think about that? What do you think about those apples?
The reputation of the original Space Jam sucking followed MJ around. It should do the same for LeBron.
I mean, he did a total disservice to the first Space Jam, in my opinion.
First Space Jam was not even that good.
It was still worth it.
You only liked it because you grew up with it.
No,
I
but
liked it because I grew up with it too. I liked it because of the Looney Tunes.
No, but like
revisiting it when I am an adult, it doesn't hold up.
But it's like Hangover. Like, how many Hangover movies can you make before you destroy it?
Well, they barely got their 1.5. So
I mean, the first one where the tigers in the bathroom and Mike Tyson.
Yes, that's funny, but
they ruined it after the third one.
To be honest with you, of course, LeBron wouldn't like it. I mean, it's a critique of capitalism, and he's worth how much?
I don't know. 11 bajillion is a number.
Yeah, it's enough to buy and sell each of us 1 million times over.
Well, why doesn't he just buy the rights to Squid Games and do it himself? He has the money.
He could do that. He's got his own production company.
God, I'm tired.
Except not instead of competing in children games and getting shot, you have to lead this Lakers roster to a title.
No! Ouch. Actually, you know what? He should make another version of Squid Games where he has to try to get Russell Westbrook to be a top flight player.
Now that's impossible.
Did you see the other night he had a quadruple double?
Yeah, because he still can do amazing things, but
but the fourth double was 10 turnovers.
Ugh.
I mean,
oh,
I would say this is kids being kids, but this is old men being old men.
I don't know anymore. Let's just move on.
But speaking of kids and their dumb games, if we move on to esports and this company Faze Clan, which is like a digital, like what you see on Twitch, where you see all these influencers playing video games, and I'm trying to pull the story.
They're like an esports team, like a franchise.
Right. So they're being valued. Now, we didn't stutter, and I didn't make a mistake when I put this up. They're being valued at $1 billion.
With a B.
With a B.
And to be honest with you, we sound, having to talk about esports, we just sound like the boomerest boomers that ever boomered.
Oh, no, I know esports, but
I know esports too, but I know video games. I love video games. But to be honest with you, having to do that for a living, that's something that I would have killed to do when I was younger. Believe me, we are in the wrong racket. Why couldn't we just do that? Seriously,
I don't know.
You got people that are 10 years younger than us making 7 figures, 8 figures, even.
Well, that's what
$1 billion.
That's what Twitch is for. People play video games and stuff on there.
Oh God.
I mean, just looking at some of these numbers. So, Faze Clan was founded in 2010. Let's see, a blank check company sponsored by an affiliate of B. Riley Financial. Excuse me. Estimated gross transaction proceeds will total $291 million, including $173 million in cash from the IPO proceeds held in the trust, $118 million from committed private investment in public equity.
Mr. Goodell, if being commissioner of the NFL doesn't work out, I'm sure Major League Gaming would take you.
Wait, so what would happen if people did bad things? Would they get fined 2 game checks?
He'd basically just unplug your system. He cut off your router access.
So, also in this report, it says that it went public with an SPAC merger. So now, if you go on the NASDAQ, like I do, and my brother works in finance, so I got to learn all about the stock market. It is now a public ticker symbol, FAZE. So now you can go buy shares of this company. It's unbelievable. It's really something.
We are in the wrong business.
And it says content. Listen to this. FAZE Clan claims to reach over 350 million followers across social media platforms globally, and 80% of its audience is between the ages of 13 and 34.
Holy Christ.
And it says the company operates 10 competitive esports teams, which have won 30 championships worldwide to date.
You know what? I don't get it, but I wish I did. I wish I got it.
And it says the content produced by Faze Clan includes video blogs, lifestyle and branded content, gaming highlights, and live streams of esports tournaments. The company boasts a roster of more than 85 esports pros and celebrities, including Kyler Murray, LeBron James Jr., Little Yachty, and
Yachty.
Oh, God.
Yachty!
Yahtzee! Or Yahtzee! I'd rather play that right now. Hey, you old geezer, you're throwing a bunch of white and black dice!
Get off my goddamn lawn!
What do you... Wait, a game where you actually have to throw dice and you actually have to write the scores down on a piece of paper? Ah! I just burned! It burns! Oh! Let's see. Upon closing, the combined company will be led by Faze Clan's Trink. I don't know who that is. Who will also become chairman of the board. CFO Amit Bajaj. I definitely botched that name. Kai Henry, Chief Strategy Officer Tammy Brand, and others.
I have no idea who these people are, but I'm sure they make a lot more money.
We're in the wrong business, aren't we?
We are.
We need to get a video game podcast.
There's no getting around it. We're getting fucking old.
We need a video game podcast on this network. Hey, if you like video games and you want to do a podcast, reach out
to DM us on Twitter.
Reach out to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network and we'll get you started. Anyway, speaking of accidents waiting to happen, Alec Baldwin.
Now, they've been talking about this. This has been a steady story in the news for ever since I think it happened last week, last Saturday, as a matter of fact. And you gotta feel terrible for Hunter Hutchinson's family, because I mean she left behind 2 young kids. To be honest with you, but this cannot happen. This cannot happen without significant operational and protocol failures at this point.
They said there were live rounds in the dummy gun.
And here is the question. What in the fuck were live rounds, bullets, doing in a prop gun?
And you know what the worst part is? They said that the person who was supposed to be doing the checks said they thought they checked.
They thought they had checked it, and they did. They thought apparently they were using it to shoot beer bottles to pass the time in between takes. Now, for those of you who don't know, and we've all gotten, I think, a crash course in movie props and safety over this past week, you must understand something, that prop guns are not like airsoft guns or Nerf guns painted black. No, they are actually full-service weapons, but with dummy rounds or blanks inserted. So essentially, you put a bullet in that thing, it's going to shoot. And that's essentially what happened. Now, whether it's Alec Baldwin's fault, as I don't think he meant to kill anybody. I don't think, however, in his role as a producer on this movie, you got to think he at least bears some responsibility. According to the Nevada Sheriff's Department, he is, apparently they're not ruling out filing criminal charges at this point.
Well,
of course, we don't know how that's going to start out because, again, we're still early in this process.
Well, the problem is it's Alec Baldwin's movie, so he might be responsible in some way, shape, or form. Do I think he should be up on charges for murder? I don't know. Because he probably didn't know that
those crazy right wingers are only saying that because because they just hate Alec Baldwin.
I mean, first of all, I believe him when he says that he probably didn't know the ammo was in there.
I'm sure he didn't know, but again, there has got to be some accountability for this, because this can't happen.
One of the actors.
The fact that the union guys that were originally working on this picture walked out because of gun safety issues that very day, the very day that happened, and the fact that this has happened with this production team more than once is not again, this was something that was bound to happen.
How did they get back on set to do another movie if this happened one time already?
I have no, and this has happened before, mind you. Brandon Lee was killed by
Yes.
Bruce's son was killed by, I think it was a faulty dummy round back in 1993.
Yes.
The Crow, and again, but the people saying that we should ban all guns. No, there are significant protocols in place, and they were not followed.
Let's be clear about one thing. We're not talking about Second Amendment. We're not having that discussion.
No, this is about fictional movies.
Right.
Nobody actually gets shot in a movie.
We're talking about how
nobody's supposed to. I should
right.
say.
Well, right, but we're talking about how the person that was supposed to be checking this
did not
do their job, and because they didn't do their job, someone is dead, and a second person almost died. The director, who Joel Souza,
he'd gotten hit in the shoulder.
He's lucky he didn't die.
He's lucky he didn't die. So again, at this point, it's a tragedy, and it could have, and it was so very avoidable, and that's what makes it even more tragic.
And I hate when all the right wingers are going to get on us when you and I both agree. You can't bring Alec Baldwin up on charges on this. You absolutely can't.
Again, he did not mean to kill anybody.
He didn't know what was in the gun.
As far as he knew, there were blanks in that gun.
How about you just don't load the gun? How about that?
That's another thing. Maybe you could phase out using dummy rounds, or
how about you just put a sound effect in? You shoot the gun on screen and you add a sound effect.
And just use visual effects to simulate the firearms discharge.
I mean, heck, for the big names, when they do the cut with the dangerous scenes, they use stunt doubles. Why can't you just use
again? But there are protocols in place to make sure that live rounds are not used, and firearms, actual firearms on set are not used for this very purpose. But for some strange reason, it wasn't followed. So whether it was by cost-cutting measure or by something else, or just by plain old negligence, somebody's got to be held accountable for this.
Now, I'm not a big Alec Baldwin fan, but I wouldn't say he would go to jail for murder or anything for any of this.
No.
But I don't like him. But I have to take his side on this one and say he was not doing anything wrong.
No, he was not doing anything wrong. As an actor.
As an actor, right. I mean, his political nonsense is a whole different issue.
And he did not mean to kill anybody.
Right. So you and I both agree he didn't do anything, but he might be responsible because it's his set. That's the only thing he might be responsible for.
He is a producer, so
he's got to be responsible for everything that's on set. All right.
He's got to be one of the responsible parties. So
right. Okay. So now we made it to the end of the show. It's time for Going Beyond. Now, when I go to pick these stories, these are the stories that I like to make Nick's head completely blow up. So, my favorite part of the show. So, I found two great stories, Nick. And one right off the bat, and I kind of teased this earlier. A jury awarded $10 million to a former executive who said he was fired because he is white male.
Oh, God. So, when in this country did we start protecting white man's feelings more than actual sanity and competency in this country? Because I'm starting to think that it might have been baked into the entire concept.
Well, do you want the full context?
Yes, please. Context is necessary.
A man who alleged in a lawsuit that he was fired from a hospital system because he is a white man has been awarded a $10 million verdict by a North Carolina jury, according to court documents. David Duval of Michigan sued Novant Health in 2019 after he was fired as senior vice president of marketing and communications the previous year Duvall said in the suit that he was terminated without cause as part of an intentional campaign to promote diversity in its management ranks, and that he was fired due to his sex and race.
So, as much as right wingers like to paint, liberals and leftists and progressives as the professional victims, you do tend to see a lot of older white males just outraged at the fact that they are just not catered to at every single step of the way.
I just don't understand. Like, usually we hear this on the opposite when there's a case like this. I never thought we would see the day.
But fired for being a white man? No, usually you get a promotion for that.
No, but fired for racist for white race?
Reverse racism.
This is reverse racism.
Unless you define racism as strictly a white on black thing, but again, it's just there had to have been a reason he was shit canned. I'm telling you.
I'm lost for words. That doesn't happen to me. Like, there's very few things that I'm lost for words on, and this one is one of them. Bravo.
And now you just gave that man $10 million. Congratulations.
And it says the verdict form says that the jury found that Duvall's race or sex was a motivating factor in the termination. I mean, really? Like, whoa. All I can say is whoa.
It hurts me.
All right. And we'll go to one last story, and this has to do with Facebook. So remember last week...
What is a doozy?
So remember last week, Nick, we talked about how Facebook was in the process of changing its name?
Mm-hmm.
So Facebook, the social network, will no longer define the future of Facebook, the company that will be known as Meta.
So this is like a Google Apple Alphabet situation where the parent company of Google is now Alphabet.
Pretty much.
It used to be, so the parent company of Facebook is now Meta. And it really seems to me like you're trying to dodge accountability for the whole, assisting a genocide thing and vaccine disinformation and, fomenting an attack on the U.S. Capitol. But that's just me. You know what? You know what it is? It's the equivalent of Mark Zuckerberg putting on a fake mustache and saying, CEO of Facebook, never heard of him. What is this Facebook you speak of? I know no book of faces. What is this sorcery you speak of?
It's Bookface.
Hey, where's the founder of Facebook? He went that way.
I think it's Zuck Mark.
It's yeah, it's Mike Zuckerman.
I mean,
watch now several people named Mike Zuckerman are now going to come after us on Twitter.
But what's so
avoiding accountability is what it is.
What's so funny about this story is that their excuses that because they want to be in the metaverse, because they want to do more new technology, and they're saying that we could virtually be together without being in traffic and doing all this weird bullshit.
Hey kids, remember when Second Life was supposed to be Wave of the Future? Neither do I.
Good Lord.
Do you remember Second Life at all?
I kind of do, yeah.
This is essentially the same thing, but dumber.
I just don't understand. And I forgot about this as well. I was talking to some people. The company announced plans to hire 10,000 new workers in Europe in order to build out its metaverse.
He's just going to keep using that word until it loses its meaning.
That should be a drinking game every time you say metaverse.
Every time he says meta or connection or future, you take a shot. I guarantee you will be shithoused within maybe like 5 minutes.
It says a name change also comes at one of the most precious moments in the company's history. The social network is reeling from the fallout of the Facebook papers, a trove of internal documents collected by a former employee turned whistleblower. We all remember that story.
We all remember that story, and you really can't fault him for that, because you really can't fault her for that, I should say. And to be honest with you, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg he's tried to be a human, but he just can't seem to get the affectations right.
I think he's a robot.
He's got to be some kind of alien life form. I don't understand how somebody could be. Well, I do understand how somebody could be that callous and unfeeling. I mean, it's Silicon Valley, for fuck's sake. But still, the operative point here is that this is entirely. Hey, I didn't do it. Facebook did it, and then it's Facebook over there.
It says the new name also means that the iconic Facebook thumbs up will no longer be the company's official logo or on the signage at its headquarters either.
Tax, well, not a tax dodge, accountability dodge.
I mean, this is. It says it's worth noting that the new name doesn't change anything for the main Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp services, which will be known by their existing names.
You know what? It's like one of those old timey railroad barons making a half-eaten breakfast. The CEO of his company, or making his pet dog the CEO of the company. I'm not the owner. He is.
That reminds me of the Family Guy bit where Peter's in the. I think it was in the financial office, and he's in the legal office, and he wants to marry the piece of pie.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just eats the pie and realizes, you might want to cancel that policy. Oh my God.
Oh,
it's Mark Zuckerberg. It's Mark Zuckerberg calling, saying I'm being too mean.
He's very upset. Quick,
disconnect
the phone. He's listening in. Disconnect it.
Mark, you suck.
Oh God. Folks.
I'm sorry. Are we railing on Facebook too much?
No, I'd say not enough.
But I don't know. Metaverse.
This episode is brought to you by Meta. Go Meta today.
Go meditate. At this point, you're going to need it. But I don't know. Metaverse, multiverse, single verse. I don't know. Everything verse. Us versus the world. Us versus the world. Starburst. I don't know. I could go for a Starburst right now, actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's just we've gone completely off the rails.
Wait, we do have to talk one more thing. I forgot. Halloween.
So Halloween is coming up, and if you know the events of this past week haven't scared you, I don't know what else has.
And just so you know, if anyone asks me what I'm wearing for a costume, there is none.
There's just candy. There's a certain that when you get to a certain age, you end up appreciating the candy more. I think.
God, I believe it or not, like I haven't really had a lot of candy over the last couple of years. I know it's weird.
Then again, you're talking to a person who has M&Ms under his desk. So,
well, I could have.
Of course, I have M&Ms under my desk.
Why not? But I have to tell you, do you have an old fashioned candy that you like that's not today's candy?
Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Rolls are old fashioned, right?
I guess. Yeah, they are.
If it was created around technically all candy is because the M&Ms were invented in the 1940s.
You know what I like? The 100 grand bar.
That I have not had since I was a kid. You know, but the thing that you never able to find. You remember Mr. Goodbar?
Yes.
You can never find the full size version.
It's only in the variety packs of like those rectangular size.
And there was always more crackle than there were anything else.
I hear that joke all the time, but it's true. Like,
but what's better, crackle or a crunch bar?
I personally,
I gotta go with crackle because I prefer a Hershey's chocolate to Nestle chocolate. If I have to,
crackle is good. My favorite is Kit Kat. That's my favorite.
Kit Kat's a good choice, but Reese's has to be my number one.
Oh, I mean, I actually finally started eating Reese's for the first time, because I had allergies to peanuts and peanut butter all my life. Now I don't anymore. So now I can eat
it without killing you.
Right, exactly. I can eat things that won't kill me, except my comedy act that might kill me. But yes, I like Kit Kat. I grew up on a Hershey bar, but I don't really like that anymore.
It's an acquired taste.
You know, the Hershey bar that I really like the most is the cookies and cream Hershey bar.
Oh, the cookie! I have not had that in ages. Oh my God!
I haven't had that in a long time, but that's one of my favorites.
If you were lucky enough to go to a place that gave you a cookies and cream Hershey bar, you hit the jackpot.
You felt like you were in heaven.
Yeah, because usually you get like the usual suspects, like a little bag of M&Ms or Skittles. Or, by the way, have Skittles gotten a lot harder to chew lately, or is it?
I never really ate Skittles as a kid.
So it is just me. So, but still, God forbid you ended up in a place that gave you like pennies and shampoo and Swedish fish
or an apple.
Has that actually happened to you?
No, thank God. Knock on wood, it never happened.
Now I'm getting to the age where hopefully soon enough I'll be able to take my niece and my godson out trick or treating, and it's gonna.
I know my nephew is going to be old enough to do it soon,
and it's gonna be weird because I remember liking the result of trick or treating. I remember not liking to trick or treat.
Oh, walking around, yeah.
Yeah, I liked wearing a costume.
I didn't.
The costumes were always fun because I always like to pretend that I'm somebody else. Like I pretend I'm a functioning human now. I pretend I was Power Ranger. I was a Grim Reaper a couple of times. Was I Wolverine? Yeah, I was Wolverine for 1 year. I've been Spider-Man a couple of times. Of course, this was when I was slim enough to fit into those costumes. But
I left out one candy though that I actually like. It's more recent than I like the pretzel M&Ms.
The pretzel M&Ms are good. The peanut butter M&Ms are also good.
See, I've never had that. Like, you're the fourth or fifth person that's told me that already.
Also, Three Musketeers is an underrated candy bar, and I will fight you if you disagree.
Milky Way.
Milky Ways are good. But the caramel kind of sticks. So I'm not really a fan of, because it kind of sticks to you to get it out.
I'll give you a few more. Airheads.
Airheads I never really ate.
Those stuck big time. Like, I remember. Jolly Ranchers.
Jolly Ranchers were good until you tried to bite them. Unless you bit them the wrong way, then it stabbed you.
And it stuck.
Yeah. Or it stuck to the back of your molars, and you could take. When I was in middle school, that was pretty much our diet. We were pretty much just passing around Jolly Ranchers.
Which flavor?
Grape.
Yes. Okay, good. That's right.
Grape.
I had someone say to me the other day they like blue raspberry. I was like, huh?
In what universe?
Yeah, really. What universe are you liking blue raspberry? Come on now.
Also Tootsie Pops.
Oh, God.
Chocolate Tootsie Pops.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. 3. And the world may never know.
Look on the kids' faces like, what the fuck?
But, all right, we've babbled enough. And that signals the end of another episode.
Yes, I think we've had our fun this week.
But make sure you have a happy Halloween, because we won't see you until after Halloween. We'll see you in November, actually. Yes,
we will see you in November. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up for the podcast network, so keep an eye out for that. We're actually going to be premiering some stuff this month, so keep it tuned to the Empty the Bench podcast network. Like I said, make sure you like and subscribe our channel. Ring the bell. Ring it until it can ring no more. Or
follow the podcast network at ETB Network. Make sure you follow us at Nick Writes Words, at Ed Morgasen Radio. We have another show starting November 4th. Since we already put out the announcement, I'll say it. We have a show called Bases and Breakdowns, which is basically the form of baseball and music mixed into one.
Which is a hell of a hook for a podcast. So make sure you listen to it, because it's going to be great.
So for Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. This has been episode 4. We will be back for episode 5 next Friday, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you back on the bench.